Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Perform Happy podcast. I have a special guest with me today, Denelle Pedrick, who was part of the world-changing Canadian team that was the first group of 5 Canadian women to take home a medal at World Championships just last year. She has a really cool story that doesn't follow the typical time frame of elite gymnastics, and I'm just so excited for you guys to meet her. Welcome, Denelle.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yay. Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. I know you just got done inspiring hockey players and you inspired gymnasts last weekend. I mean, is this sort of a thing you make a habit of, giving back to young athletes?
I try my best. It's a busy schedule, but yeah, I try to help as much as I can, especially the young as they're young, because gymnastics is hard. And it's always cool
Mhm.
to have those people to look up to or kind of relate to.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I sure appreciate your willingness to come and chat with us today. So let's talk about how your gymnastics career has not followed the typical timeline. Would you give everybody a little rundown of your gymnastics journey up to this point?
Yeah, I'll do a quick little recap. I started gymnastics kind of late for competitive. I was in recreational and I was climbing the rope, and one of our coaches from our gym was like, "Drop, I'll catch you." And I was like, "Okay," and I let go, and he did catch me. And that was kind of the first thing. When I was young, I was not really scared of anything, which was helpful at that age. So they brought me into competitive. I did a few years of competitive, and then I had a lot of injuries. So I went through, I think it was one, two, three, four, 5 or 6 fractures in about 4 or 5 years. So I was kind of on that elite path and then ended up just picking level 10 for a while just because I was having a lot of injuries and couldn't keep up. And then I did 4 years of NCAA gymnastics, which is college gymnastics in the US. And I did 4 years there. My 4th year was COVID. So I guess it was 3.5 years. And then that 4th year, everything got canceled. We were told to go home. So I went back to Canada and I took 6.5 months off of gymnastics thinking I was done. And then something inside me was like, no, like I think you have more to give. So I called Ellie Black's coach, Dave, and I asked if I could come train with her. And he said, absolutely, you're more than welcome. So I booked a flight 2 weeks later, flew out there. It's about, can't remember, I think over 40-hour drive. I think closer to 50 from my home to now where I live with Ellie. Well, not with Ellie, but I guess in the same city as Ellie, where she trains. And I started training again just to try to hopefully make the national team was my main goal. We started training with her at the end of 2020, kind of into 2021. And then I made national team for the first time in 2022. And Dave just told me this. I was the first Canadian gymnast to make the national team for the first time after coming back from university. So which is kind of cool because most gymnasts are pretty young, 15, 14, 15, 16, they make national team. And I was 2020, so I was 22 turning 23, so a lot older than most gymnasts.
I love that because there's such an idea that you have to be, a level 10 at 12 and then international elite by 13 or why bother, and it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be that way. And I love stories like yours where you just go, you know what, my heart's still in this. Let's go work. And you got yourself up to that. And so I'm curious, did you just kind of have this idea like, I want to train. Why don't I call Ellie Black's coach? Did that come out of nowhere? Like what gave you that idea and kind of inspired you to take that shot?
Yeah, I trained with Ellie a couple times I did the FISU games, which is the World University Games. So I trained with her a couple times before those. So I'd been to her gym and her club, and I knew Dave had kept her healthy as an older athlete. So I was like, clearly he's doing something right. And I wanted to make sure I could stay healthy. As I said, I had a lot of injuries when I was younger, so I wanted to make sure health was my top priority. And then just a healthy environment. When I had trained with Ellie, I was always positive, and Dave's a very calm coach, and that's what I felt I needed, especially as an older athlete. So it just seemed the best interest for me mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. So I moved out here. So it was kind of spur of the moment, but I had worked with him before, so I knew kind of how he was.
cool. I love it. And then you're just like, all right, hi, hello, I have a question for you. Can you
Yeah.
train me for the Olympics, please?
Yeah.
And I love that he's like, come on down. There's room for one more.
Yeah, and
So,
when I got
okay.
here, some of the coaches would say, "We've been looking for someone to train with Ellie because she trained with most of the boys. There wasn't a lot of high-level females here." So they're like, "Honestly, you kind of helped us out because we've been trying to find someone to train with Ellie, so it worked out for both of us."
Oh, that's so cool. And so, okay, I was gonna ask, coming in to train with someone who's a three-time Olympian, um, what does that do for confidence? Does it have an impact on your confidence when you walk into a situation like that?
Uh, I think a little bit when you don't know Ellie. I mean, now that I know her, it wouldn't. But coming in, just knowing kind of her accolades, and I knew her a little bit, but not super well. It was a little bit intimidating, and I was like, do I deserve to be here? Should I be training with her? Especially after 6.5 months of gymnastics and a break. I wasn't in like my tip-top shape that I was used to be, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm embarrassing myself. I'm training with Ellie Black, and I can't even do a front tuck on floor. So yeah, it was kind of at first that was a lot of self-doubt, like, should I have came here or did I make a mistake? And then as I trained with her and kind of got to know her better, she's really been a mentor, a teammate, a sister. She's very humble. She's awesome to train with. I half the time I forget she's an Olympian because she's just so down to earth and she keeps me kind of level-headed because sometimes I get a little stressed out and she's kind of got that calming tone to her and with her experience, she knows that kind of how to keep it calm and keep focused
Mm.
in the gym, and she's very much a good leader and role model. And yeah, I think now it's a confidence booster being like, I train with Ellie Black. Heck yeah, I do. Like,
Uh-huh.
and it's definitely confidence builder now. So it's been a little bit of a journey, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing about confidence as far as like comparing to people or being inspired by people. You get a couple choices. When you see somebody that you can look up to, you can either feel bad, like, oh no, I'm not good enough, or you can feel inspired and grateful and fortunate and just be like, teach me everything. I'm watching. Show me what you got. And it's proven by science. You literally have two paths you can take when somebody intimidates you. And it seems like you might have fallen into the first trap when you got there a little bit, which is so
Mhm.
normal for people to be like, do I even belong in this level? Do I belong in this gym? Do I belong with this coach? Am I good enough? When did that shift for you? And you realize, oh yeah, I'm good enough. Let's do it.
Probably a few months in. It was like a big adjustment, just trying to get used to it. And then a few months in, I actually sat down with Ellie one on one as I got to know her better and was like, okay, I feel like I can talk to her. I sat down with her and I asked her straight up, I was like, do you think I'm good enough to make the national team? I just want to know now because I was like, if you honestly don't think, then I was like, I'll probably go home. I just don't want to not waste my time, but I don't want to kind of think I'm better than I am kind of thing. So I was like, do you honestly think I can make the national team? And I was like, be blunt with me, be honest. I was like, I'm not going to take it personally. And she was like, Denelle, yes, I think you could have been on national team already. She's like, we could use this skill from you. We can use this. She's like, just training with you for a few months. I know you can be a good asset to our team. She's like, honestly, I think you should be on the team already. So that was kind of when it flipped for me. I was like, okay, if Ellie Black, three-time Olympian says like, absolutely, we could use you on our team. I was like, clearly she sees something in me that I may not see in myself yet. So
Mm.
that was that
Oh my
flip.
gosh, that the power of belief that comes from other people is so huge. People that know what they're talking about. Like if your grandma is like, "Sure, honey, you can make the national team. Of course, you should be there already." It's one thing versus, someone who really knows what they're talking about. That can really like instill so much belief. So what about your coaches? Now I know you have a great relationship with your coach today. Have you always had great relationships with your coaches?
I had a little bit of a rough start when I was younger. I had just not always the healthiest environments growing up. That kind of led to a lot of my injuries, just with I've had high pain tolerance most of my life, but just with different coaches either not believing my that I was in pain or saying that I was making it up and just some yeah, not super healthy environments and places that made me feel like I couldn't speak up, and that was really hard when I was younger. So that's part of the reason I chose to change gyms and kinda just change scenery completely and just start almost on a fresh slate. And yeah, now it's been an adjustment. Like at first I was really nervous, even though Dave is not any bit scary. He's the nicest coach I've ever had in my life. It was like I would be in training and I would ask him like, "Oh, are you going to yell at me now?" And he'd be like, "Well, why?" I don't, that's what I'm used to. I don't know. What do you mean you're not going to? And he would always just say to me, "Well, you're trying," which I was kind of refreshing because didn't normally hear that. It was usually X, Y, and Z, what I did wrong and what I need to fix, and a lot of negatives. So it's been an adjustment. And now I've learned to have an open communication, and I can speak up when I have certain thoughts or feelings about skills, and we can kind of work together as a team, which, yeah, it's been a total, I guess, revamp of my mentality. And it's been for the best because I can come in if I'm not feeling great and I'm not afraid to be like, "Dave, I'm not feeling good," or I guess I've had an injury, so like my knee is sore today. Can we shift away from this? And he'll be like, "Absolutely, let's do this instead." And we kind of compromise. And that being said, there's not days where I'm like, "I'm tired." And he's like, "Well, we're still doing routines. We can maybe change our expectations a little bit," but he's still the coach I need him to be in those situations. But it's an open communication, it's healthy. I'm not scared to approach him, and it's just an overall positive, happy environment, which is nice.
I love that. Okay, now I know we can never truly know the answer to this, but I'm curious if you could transplant Dave into your early training years, what do you think could have been different for you?
Yeah, I think it would have been a very different atmosphere, different path, I think. I've always been very self-driven and hard on myself, so I haven't necessarily needed that hard coach because I do it to myself a lot. But had he been when I was younger, I think a lot of my injuries could have been avoided because a lot of them were stress fractures that were just overuse. So had I had that when I was young, I think I could have been successful earlier in my career, younger and healthier, and maybe had a little bit less, I guess, lingering issues now and had a more positive outlook on gymnastics 10 years ago instead of now.
Okay, so to all the people out there who think that you need a mean, whip cracking coach to get to the elite level, what do you say to that?
Oh, absolutely. Ellie is the best example of that because she's been at this club her entire career, her entire life. And it's just a positive environment and she pushes herself and she's the best Canada's ever had. And she's had healthy coaches her whole career. So that being said, yeah, I would say there's a way to positively push an athlete and make them better without dragging them down at the same time.
Agreed. Awesome. Okay, so I'm curious about this team, this particular team of Canadians who go and make history for getting it on the podium at Worlds. What do you think set that particular team up for success? What did you guys learn from that experience that you maybe would duplicate, trying to set yourself up for success again?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was self-belief, but also we didn't set our expectations too high. We had a very positive, energetic group. We had me, Emma, who both came from NCAA, who's used to the rah-rah, like super fun environment. So our kind of job for that team was to keep it like lighthearted and happy. We'd dance around, kind of distract the ones that would get more stressed. Ellie was the only one who had been to a world championship, so she was kind of our role model leader. So she kind of led the way and was our uh focused, make sure we're on like right schedule kind of thing, but also just led by example and always was the voice for our group. And I think that we all just kind of worked together. So we using Ellie's experience with the rest of our positivity, energy, just keeping it fun and really enjoying each other's presence and just having not no expectations, but I think a big part of our success was just going in and knowing all we can do is our best and we could do our routines. And we focused on our team the entire final. We had no idea we were standing until the very end because we were just, our goal was 12 for 12 routines. That was all we wanted to do. We had no score goal, no placing goal. We just wanted to hit 12 for 12. And we did that. And we were all like celebrating, so pumped, having like the time of our lives. And we had no idea like where we had finished. And I think it was just, yeah, that mindset, that enjoyment. We had a lot of experience in different, not necessarily world championships, but a little different in NCAA and FISU games. And we had some one younger athlete who had different experiences as well. So I think it just all complemented each other.
Yeah, what a nice mix. And generally, I just keep hearing this positivity,
Yeah.
teamwork, positivity. Like it's so powerful. It's you don't have to give that up to have success. It actually can be a huge driver of success. It sounds like in your case and in other cases too, I'm sure. Um, so you are rehabbing from an ACL tear.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So we can learn from the successes. What are you learning from that setback?
Honestly, I've learned a lot already, and it's only been, I don't know, 12 weeks, almost 12 weeks since surgery now. And I think I've almost learned as much, if not more, from this as I have from the good, which is, I guess, tells me something. I I've learned a lot about myself and actually about the gym environment I was talking about through this injury. So I had surgery in September, and then I was right away like, I need to be back in the gym. I find as an athlete, you're like, I need to be back. I can't miss. You just kind of get in that mindset. And I've actually learned a lot about, I guess, smart training and how much to be in the gym. So for me, coming back after my surgery, I would try to be in the gym for 4 hours, and it would be like demoralizing. I would see everyone doing full routines, they could do everything, and I would get down on myself and I would just sit there and I would just want to cry. And I was like, I don't think this is a healthy environment for me to be in. It wasn't anyone in the environment, it was just, I guess, the situation. So I had a good chat with David and with Ellie, and I was like, what can we do to kind of maximize my recovery, but also treat my brain well and keep my mental health on a, I guess, healthy level. So we had a good discussion, and we found about 2 hours was a good amount of time to get all my physio done, my upper body conditioning, everything I could physically do at the time. So a little bit of bars, but mostly not much. Get everything I done, kind of support my teammates. And then after the 2 hours, I would go home. I have a dog, so I'd walk my dog, do something that made me happy to distract myself from the part of gymnastics I couldn't do. And at first I felt guilty because I was like, why can't I be in the gym and be supportive of my teammates? And it was Ellie that said, you need to do what's good for you right now. We we have a big group of teammates in our gym. We can help each other out. But right now, if you being in the gym is gonna set you back either mentally, emotionally, it's not worth it. So we had to really change how I looked at it. I'm on my full-time school for masters, so I started doing more school time and kind of distracting myself outside the gym. And I've really learned that I guess, you don't need to be in the gym 24/7 to recover well. And I think me being happy and emotionally, I guess, calm or like at peace with what's happening, it's made the recovery process easier. I think it's a big part of what's making it go smoothly and I'm being right on track is because I'm actually in a good, I guess, mindset.
Yeah, I mean, the mind-body connection is undeniable. And it's interesting to hear you mention that in terms of healing. Have you noticed previous injuries where your mental state was not good, that it didn't contribute to good healing?
Yeah, so just even going off of with the different coaching environments or just different environments, it was a lot of times I would just push, 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 and then stress fractures would turn into fractures or things like that. And I almost needed someone to tell me, no, Danelle, it's okay to take a break, like go out of the gym, do something else. But I think I always had that expectation I need to be in the gym. So I would push it more, and then I would get down on myself because I couldn't do everything. And then I would, a lot of times, a lot of the injuries came from doing things too early or just coming back too fast because I felt like I was behind and I was kind of instilled in my brain. So I think I needed someone to tell me it's okay to step away, come in for an hour, do what you can, and leave. You don't have to sit here through the 4 hours and try to force yourself to be busy because that's when another injury happens or something else happens that could have been avoided.
Yeah, so just those supportive voices that could give you permission to chill and
Yeah.
recover, really. Okay, for the 12-year-old gymnast out there who is so like too tough for her own good and,
Mhm.
hiding her injuries, because she wants it so bad and she cares and she doesn't want to let anybody down and she doesn't want to be sidelined, what's your best advice to her?
Definitely listen to your body. Even at a young age, 12, you're old enough, you've done gymnastics, whether it be a year or 6 years or whatever, you have done it long enough to know when it's a muscle sore or a bad pain. And when it's a bad pain, easing off is the best option. Doing a little less so you can do more tomorrow is always a good choice. I've learned that a lot as an older athlete, that if I listen to my body today, that's adding time onto my career later on that you might have missed when I was young. So had I done this when I was 12, you're adding time on, and longevity, you've seen a lot of longevity in the sport is starting to evolve now. So I think listening to your body, and that being said, even if you can't do everything, there are things you can do, and any work is good work. So for me right now, if I'm in just doing beam complex, just being on a beam, the time on a beam is good work for me. And at the time, especially as a young athlete, you may not notice it or feel that you're doing enough, but just time spent on the apparatus, visualizing just in the gym, whether it be 20 minutes or 2 hours, anything you can get out of your day is a good day. And taking that and moving on to your next day is really important.
Awesome advice. Now, on the topic of visualizing, I'd love to hear what some of the mental tools are in your arsenal that are the most useful for you.
Yeah, there's a lot. I've been through a lot of training, a lot of years. I personally meet with a sports psychologist right now once a week in competition season, usually once every couple weeks, kind of as needed. And I find that's really helpful. At first, I was hesitant because I was like, well, how do I know if I need one? There's sometimes a negative stigma around them, like something has to be wrong for you to see them. And that's absolutely not true. Like I said, I speak with mine once a week. And sometimes they'll just say something that you're like, oh, yeah, I should talk about that, or that is a good way to think about it. And I didn't even realize I was starting to go in a negative mindset without even knowing it until she brought it up. So that's really helpful. Visualizing is a skill for those young athletes out there that are like, I can't visualize. I was there when I was young. They used to be like, visualize your routines, and I would try. And every time I'd visualize, I'd fall like 6 times. And I was like, this doesn't work. It's it's false. It can't happen. But it's just like your actual skills. If you practice it, you get better. And now I can do visualization of all my routines and I can see them happening exactly how I want. And I don't have that issue of, I guess, negative visualization because I've trained myself and my brain how to think about it. And then keywords are probably one of my biggest things in any routine, any day. Just having my keywords keeps me calm and in a routine. So whether it's a beam routine that I have each skill I have one keyword for, it keeps me consistent and calm. And that way, if it's the same thing every time, I use the keywords when I visualize, I use them when I'm competing, when I'm training, and it keeps that consistency. And I feel it helps when you get to a competition, it feels more like home and you're not overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's almost like deja vu if you've been doing it consistently over
Yeah.
time. Like back burner autopilot mindset just takes over.
And two, I find when you're young, a lot of times you're trying to think 6 different corrections at the same time in a routine, and then you get ahead of yourself or you just lose your train of thought. And before you know it, you've either made a mistake or fallen because you're overthinking it. So really finding those one or two keywords is really key to keeping it calm, simple, consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you have a coach that sort of like word vomits corrections at you. Just
Yeah.
just pick one. Pick one, start there. You can
Yeah.
whack-a-mole the rest of them later.
I do that all the time, even when I coach younger athletes, and I always tell them, like, if I tell you 4 things, I was like, pick one, focus on that. And then I was like, don't ignore the rest, but I was like, pick one at a time. I was like, don't try to do them all at once because you're gonna confuse yourself.
Exactly. But coaches get excited. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
guilty of the same thing where I'm like, okay, all I gotta do is lean back, punch the board, get your heels, do that. And they're like, ah, and they're just running down the ball going, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pick one thing and focus on it. Yeah, great advice. Okay. Now you said when you were little, you were fearless, which is always, really helpful for gymnastics. Have you
Mhm.
ever had moments in your career where fear gave you trouble?
Yeah, so when I was young, everything I wasn't really scared of anything. I'd basically try if you told me to try anything, I would try it. It was not a problem. And then I guess as I've gotten older and I guess more knowledgeable, I realize more of the risks and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's a little more scary now." But probably the biggest mental block I had was actually I feel like it was just a year or so ago. It was on a Shaposh or Maloney or whatever on bars, a release move. And I would go and I would go to let go of the bar and my hands just wouldn't let go. And I would just go over and over and it just wouldn't let go. And I couldn't tell you why, what I was scared of, or what reasoning my body didn't want to do it, but I didn't want to do it. And that was one of the hardest moments of my career because I had been fearless all my life. And then all of a sudden I was like, what do you mean? Like I've never been scared of things. Why does it happen now? So, what really helped me was going back, like moving backtracking all the way back to the beginning. We went back to drills. So I went to we have like a trampoline bar. So I went back to the trampoline bar, would do 5, 10, however many I could do there. I letting go there was no problem. So then we moved to like drills and then Dave, as I said, is like super good with kind of changing the mindset. So he would tell me the first goal was just to let go of the bar. He's like, I don't care where you land. I don't care what happens afterwards. Just let go of the bar. We'll throw a soft mat in. Like, we'll just make sure everything's as padded and as safe as it can be. All you gotta do is let go. So I started doing like almost like a toe catch. I'd go like way too early, but I just let go. And he's like, that's good. And I'd get frustrated because I'm like, that's not my skill. That's not what I'm trying to do. And he's like, you're just letting go. You kind of retrain your brain. And then eventually we would do it with spot. I could let go, and then he would leave, and I couldn't let go. So it was a quite lengthy process. But after that, I eventually did let go. And as soon as I did it, I was like, oh, that was easy. Why didn't I do that like 2 weeks ago? And he did a really good job of being like, look, but it could have been 3 more months. So just changing that mindset, because as I said, I'm already hard on myself. I was like, oh my goodness, Danelle, you just wasted I don't know how many weeks it was, 2 weeks of your life because he wouldn't let go. And then him saying, but it could have been 6 more months. And I was like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. I guess like I did get over it. Let's look at the positives and move on. So that was probably
Yeah.
the biggest fear part of my career.
Yeah. Well, and that's such a masterclass in how to move through mental blocks quickly is to have a coach that you can collaborate with that
Hmm.
will ask you questions. Is how does this feel? Can we let go of the bar here? What if we try this? And then you can say, no, I don't feel ready for that. I think I could do it here. I mean, I imagine there were moments where the two of you were kind of like, where do we go next?
Yeah. Yeah, we worked together. And then sometimes he would suggest something and I'd be like, "Ooh, I don't know if I can do it." And there'd be a little push, and then if it didn't happen, the nice thing is there's always like a compromise.
Mm.
He, the most important thing that he always tells, well, me and Ellie, like our team, is you're trying, and that's all I can ask. He's like, I can't be mad at you if you're trying. If you come in and you're like not gonna, don't want to be here, and you're not gonna try, it's one thing. But he's like, none of you that I work with don't want to be here. You all work hard. You're all trying. I can see it in you. So he's like, I have nothing to be upset about because there's nothing more I can ask for.
Yeah. So then you almost have to retrain that part of you that gets mad at yourself
Hmm.
when things aren't perfect. Unless, does that benefit you? Like, are you one of those people that the frustration kind of like turns into a fuel for like, get out of my way, I'm hitting this skill? Or is it something that actually brings you down when you get mad at yourself?
Uh, I think it depends on the day. Some days, and it depends on the event and kind of circumstance. Some days I'll get frustrated, and then if it's like something like vault that I can just kind of put my power into, sometimes it'll help. Uh, but yeah, it depends. Sometimes it gets me down. Ellie, I train a lot with, so we know each other pretty well, so she can tell kind of which fuel it is, and if it seems like it's getting negative, she'll come over and either talk to me or be like, "We need to do this." Dave likes to kind of step back and give me time first to figure out like, is this helping her? Is it not? And yeah, using our teammates a lot because sometimes you just hear the same thing from the coach and it's doesn't feel like it's helping.
Totally. You got this. Go for it. Like, oh, I got this. Okay. Why didn't I think of that? like if that was going to work. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and that's something I think that a lot of people think they have to be mad at themselves to get the best work out of themselves. Like they can't be nice. They have to, again, like kind of like the mean coach, they have to crack the whip on themselves. Otherwise, they're going to like become slackers and not try hard. What's your experience with that? Is it possible to be kind and patient and also be massively productive in the gym?
Oh yeah, I've been learning that a lot since I've come to this club. It'll just even from a simple thing of tracking our routines on a sheet. Dave will get us to track our, so I'll use beam as an example because we tracked a lot of those last year. It would be I would do track my perfect skills, so basically any skill without a wobble, any falls, my artistry. So if I felt I was a judge of it, so if I felt I did good artistry and performed it well or not, so it was just a check or an X. And then I had 5 different connections, so it was out of 5 how many connections I made, and we would track that. And at first I was like, I'm gonna get so hard on myself, like this is not gonna work. And then I started looking at it, I was like, hey, I might have fallen once, but I saved 8 tenths in artistry probably, and I had 4 perfect skills. So it kind of made up for it. And I kind of learned how to take the good out of each routine and shift it into a positive mindset. And then as I got more positive, the routines got better because I took the good things from it and the bad things I learned from. So I think absolutely, yes, you can be kind to yourself and positive and it'll be productive. Because I've done both. Like I said, I've gotten mad at myself, but also I've learned coming to Alta and Halifax that if you're positive and take the good out of it, you're just as productive, if not more, than when you're mad at yourself or frustrated.
Okay, we've heard it from somebody who knows. It's like more evidence that you can be kind and productive. To wrap up, I would love to know what's next for you. What is in your sights in the near future?
So right now we're 12 weeks post surgery. I just started jogging and running, anything linear. Um, yeah, I'm meeting with my coach with Dave next week, and we're gonna kind of set out a monthly plan going up to nationals. Our nationals are in June, the first week of June. It's nationals and it's also Olympic trials. So that's kind of our main focus is hopefully to be back for that. I'm very realistic. I know ACLs are hit or miss. It could be great. It could be longer. So right now, that's our focus. That's what we're going to strive towards. But if it doesn't go as planned, there's still, I guess, other opportunities. So the focus is to hopefully be back probably mid-April, end of April, so I can do routines in May and then be back competing in June. So
Okay.
kind
Well,
of
do
short-term,
you
long-term.
do you like the underdog thing? Does that power you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fueled.
Awesome.
I I I've had a lot of, I guess, I've seen a lot. I mean, social media is powerful. I've seen a lot of messages. I've seen a lot of posts. I've had people message me saying like, "Oh, it sucks that Olympics are out. It sucks that you're out for a year." And people just assume right away it's a 12-month recovery and they just kind of count me out. And I've always, even through NCAA, I've always used that as light to my fire. I like to prove people wrong. So we'll see. They could be right, but I was like, there's only one way to find out is if I put my best foot forward and see what we can do in the next 6 months.
Amazing. You are such an inspiration, Danelle. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks for being here. Great. So if anybody wants to follow your journey, where's the best way to follow you?
Yeah, I post most of my stuff on Instagram. It's just my name at Denelle Pedrick. I have a gymnastics account too that I've actually been doing all my recovery videos on. I think that one's at Nelly Nastics with an X. But I usually post it on my main account too. So that's probably the easiest way to follow. Um, yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to reach out. Yeah, Instagram, any kind of social media, I'll usually see them and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you have similar injuries, anything, any questions, concerns, fears, mental blocks, yeah, I'm usually checking those. So I'll reach out to you if you have questions. I'll get back to you. I'll give you my tips and tricks. If I can't help you, I'll try to find someone that can because it's all one big gymnastics community and we want everyone to succeed and be their best.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.